Welcome to the portrait single capture of the West Australian Professional Photographer of the Year Awards. We're about to start judging. Okay, so we're going into portrait single capture now. Just to remind our judges, do we have some spare judges here? Oh, Nathan, could you listen to the preamble? Because portrait single capture and our beautiful Jacinta. Right, we're ready. Portrait single capture entries may utilise all post-production techniques, excluding the addition of any new elements to the original capture. This includes borders and textures, the repetition of the same single image, the same single capture, either in full or part, is prohibited. Okay, sorry, did you get that? So everyone right? Yeah. So everyone's really set. It's sort of is self-explanatory, single capture. Good. Okay, so we're all ready to go. Judges are ready. Next, first print please of this. And we have a 79 by majority. Okay, so we have a challenge from Diane. Thank you, Diane. You do have some people close by you. Rachel, you're on 84. And yeah, and then otherwise everyone else is sort of sitting around 78, 79. So off you go.
Okie dokie. Look, I think this is a really beautiful image. This, to me, it's more than professional practice. You know, this is not something that people are churning out every day in their studios. This is beautifully lit, you know, beautifully composed. It is really stunning. Yeah, I'd like to hear why other judges are not putting this in a silver range. I think this is really worthy of... Hang on, just let me grab my little doodah. Exceeds normal professional practice with high levels of communication, craft and skill. This photo to me does all of those things. I think, yeah, it is more than just professional practice. So I'd like to listen to some other people.
Okay, well, we do have a couple of judges sitting around 79, which is good professional practice. So John or Amber, is there anything either of you would like to...
I agree. It's good professional practice, and I think that's where it stops to me, because to go into the silver range, there needs to be a lot more attention paid to the exposure. I find that the highlights are very strong, then very distracting, and also there's an area below her eye that's really dark. I don't know if it's makeup, but it does look like it's really it's distracting when you get close up. And I also find on her back the separation between the background and where the dress or the top ends is quite distracting.
Thanks, John. Rachel, you were up in the 80 range.
I think I saw what Diane saw, just a level of control and just glorious skin tones and just a level of just something a little bit more than professional. Just this is kind of mastery of posing and of detail, and I love the way that the flower crown kind of looks like it's been made into sort of a cap or a hat or a something, and I'm sure there's a story in that as well, because it feels like it belongs. It feels like it's part of her, and the wiry delicacy of each little piece of her hair, just beautifully lit, and I feel really nice looking at this photograph, so that kind of pushed me up into that silver range. It's just it's a stunning piece to sit with.
I'm enjoying the debate. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Yeah, Tony, thank you.
I enjoyed the things you did, but I see some fundamental flaws that have kept me where John is in the high 70s. The hair at the back is overlit for the darkness of that hair. It should be a little bit darker. And also the top of the flowers. But probably the critical thing for me is her hand, which is posed quite delicately, directs our attention to her neck, which is really badly, like it just, those sharp lines in there are very unflattering. It's almost looking flabby, and even the shadow is not a clean shadow. It's got a noise and a dithering in there. The whole thing just pulled me into under her neck, and for those reasons, that's where it falls short of a high standard of professional practice. The pose, the feeling of the picture, yeah, good solid practice, but if they were corrected, I can see this at a higher level. But for me, they're fundamental professional flaws. So,
Thanks. Diane, right of reply?
Look, we're not looking for a gold here. What we're saying, what Rachel and I are saying is this is above the average that people are churning out every day. You know, her pose and the look on her face is so majestic. I think the communication in the image, you know, we know so much about this lady without even seeing her eye open, which is, you know, really quite a special thing. I disagree about the shoulder and the hair. I absolutely love that extra light on there. I think that's really quite special and beautiful. And, you know, like I said, I'm not looking for a gold. I just think this needs to be rewarded as more than just professional practice. I think it's just really beautiful. And let's just go a little bit higher and go for a silver.
Thanks, Diane. You'll hold your score at 84, and I'll invite the judges to rescore. And now we have a silver award at 81. And I'm sure the entrant appreciated all those tips that we had with that discussion. So well done, judges. Next print, please. And we have a score of 77. Yes, and a comment from Diane.
Well, look, there's actually a really great story here. I think it's Rapunzel. So, you know, she's wearing a sort of royally looking outfit. She's got the plait. She's got the height above her. So I think she's looking, you know, of how to get out of her tower or something like that. That's what I'm reading into it. But technically it's been let down. So this is actually a really clever concept. So, yeah, just, you know, refine it a little bit and, yeah, you're onto something.
Good, thanks, Diane. I'll just do a judge change. Jacinta, can we invite you back on the panel? And Amber, thank you. That's about 15 minutes, Amber, if you want to have a little break. Okay, welcome, Jacinta. And next print, please. And the print score is 77. And let's have a comment from anyone offering. Jacinta, thank you.
Yeah, at first I thought this was, I was hoping just, like, we do see some movement, but then the top part of her body seems very stagnant. So for a dancer, I wanted to see more movement through the image. Also, her hand on the top to the right looks a little bit deformed. I don't know if it's quite dark, but her hand looks really, really long. I don't know if it's been lengthened or something done in post-processing. Plus that highlight at the top too, that's where our eye is going rather than her directly on her face.
Thanks, Jacinta. Good. Okay, next print, please. We're judging the portrait category and we're looking at the single capture images, and our sponsor today is Team Digital. As the judges put their scores in. Okay, and the image has scored 75. Feedback offered from Diane. Thanks, Diane.
Lovely light on the child's face and very sharp, but that yellow line in the background is extremely distracting. So it's just, as a judge, your eye just is really drawn away from the main subject. So I definitely look at that.
And a comment from John.
This could go further. I think it looks like a rite of passage. The kids are going through a ceremony. I find that is really great, as the yellow line and the figure in the foreground with a hand in the place does let it down. But look at other images in this series and you could have something there.
Good, thanks, John. John, would you like to have a rest for the moment? And Nathan, if you could move in onto the panel. Thanks, Nathan. Get you working for your lunch and all that coffee. Okay, next print, please. And we have a final score of 75. And a comment offered. Jacinta, thank you.
Oh yeah, this has got great sharpness and details in the face here, but I think what's letting it down is I reckon this would be really strong as a black and white. I think we've got too much tonal range going on, but we would add so much more drama and be leading into the subject's eyes if this was a really beautiful black and white. So just something for the entrant to think about.
Excellent. Thanks, Jacinta. Okay, next print, please. And a final score of 78. All very close scoring. Is there some feedback, Tony?
A good solid professional practice, perhaps a little bit more animation or some sort of connectivity with the photographer and the subject would have added a little bit more to this image.
Okay, could I have another judge change? Diane, if you could have a rest. Amber, your judge, yep. If you could take a seat. Welcoming Amber Simcoe to the panel. Thank you, Amber. And next print, please. And we have a final score of 74. And yes, some feedback from...
Yeah, just little things. There's hair blowing in her face, and I think if the photographer's got this model or this beautiful woman in this place, just take a little bit more time and make sure that everything is working well.
Good. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, next print, please. And we have a silver award, 81. Okay, well, we looked long and hard at this image. Can you share some of your thoughts with us? Yeah, Tony?
Just a quick comment. I'm pleased it's got a silver because it kind of highlights that good, honest, solid, raw pictures still can have impact. And this is a good editorial shot. There's a couple of little things in there. He's obviously been in Sea Shepherd there, got an interest in this, in ecology and the simple life. Everything's there for us to see. It's a good, solid editorial image. I could see a great narrative around this.
Yes, thanks, Jacinta.
Just one quick thing is on the gentleman's top of his head. I don't know if that's from painting in the background or something, but there's just like a white patch blending from his hair onto his forehead. So if we can correct that, if taking it into APA.
Yes, look at those finer details. Thanks. Okay, next print, please. And we have a silver award, 82. Oh, 82, 83. That's right. You can't challenge, yeah. But you can offer a comment. We'll accept that score.
I sat it in the silver with distinction range because I thought it was higher than a silver, because technically everything to me is perfect and there is a story there. And I was hoping that there was someone along the lines with me to work out what the story is. There's obviously some connection with Australia here because we've got Skippy buttocks and or Barbie buttocks. Maybe there's Skippy, stuffed Skippy, and we've got the kangaroo. We've got the koala in the background. But things also, I wanted to know the name in the background is what I was questioning and trying to get the story fully, but I still felt that it sat in the silver distinction range, technically, and it was perfectly constructed. So, but I don't know if anyone else has any feedback. Maybe that they could bring it
Rachel.
up also where I was.
I just thought it might be stronger if it was just a little bit darker. The characters are wonderful and their facial expressions are brilliant. The Barbie buttocks are actually legs of the Barbie, not the buttocks, and so that was kind of confusing. But I think just print it down a little bit and that will have it's a very sinister kind of quirky sort of a thing, but it was too bright and happy in the printing.
Okay, good. Well, good feedback for the entrant, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, well done. Still silver award, 82, and something to work on. Okay, eyes forward. Next print, please. And we have a final score of 77. Excellent. And a comment for the author? Nathan, thank you.
Look, it's a professional practice macro flower shot, and I enjoy it for that. It's a pro shot, I guess. I'm not reading much story into there. Even as a nature shot, I guess, maybe give it a bit more stem, add a bit of context. But, you know, the highlights that I can see are dealt with really nice. It's good detail. I'm just...
Excellent. Well, that's good feedback, because all judges agreed that we had good professional practice from 77 to 78 and a 75. So, yeah, good feedback for the entrant. Thank you, judges. Okay, next print, please. And we have a final score of 71. Okay. We have a spread of scores here, 67, 71, 68. Could I have some feedback for the entrant on this one from Tony?
I tried to give every photographer the benefit of the doubt, so I tried hard to see if the technique or the colour shift on this was deliberate, or a technique that was designed to add something. I can't see the connection, so therefore I put it down to it's just not very well printed. So get have somebody look at your printing technique, colour management, whether it's an underexposed file, the colours are off. You could have printer problems, I don't know, but definitely is suffering in that area.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, next print, please. We're judging the portrait category at the West Australian Professional Photographer of the Year Awards, and we are sponsored by Team Digital, a long-time sponsor of this category. And I think they're a long-time portrait, I'm pretty sure they are. But they're long-time sponsor of the West Australian Awards, that's for sure, for as long as I've been around. And that is quite a few years. I'm happy to say. Okay, as our scores come in. And we have a score of 77 and some excitement in the ranks, I do believe. Yes, a challenge from Tony Hewitt. I'll accept your challenge, Tony. You do have some no company, almost. No, you've got Jacinta on 78, but then we have a 77, a 70 and a 75.
I think that the photographers brought a lot to this picture. I believe that the composition is very, very good. The way that they've positioned themselves to have that dynamic figure in the front directing things. We know what's going on. We can see, in terms of an editorial portrait, we can see so much context about what we're looking at. I love the fact that they've captured these fish in the foreground, so we almost feel like we're in with the fish inside the net. Even the fish on the right where the tail's coming out, that timing of that, and whether they've chosen this particular frame to tell the story, that's part of the skill set. This is beyond standard professional practice, and all we're saying at 82, I think is what I gave it, or 83, is that it exceeds normal professional practice. I'd love to capture a shot of fishermen like this. You could try and do this 5 times in a row, 5 nights in a row, and never get it, because you've got to have all of those things working at the same time. I love the feeling that something's going on. I love the colour, the complements of colour. The colour palette works really well. I don't need it to be warm because I've been in water catching fish with a net and it's bloody cold, yet it doesn't look like the colour's wrong. I love the echoing of the colour of the water with the gentleman's shirt front and centre. He's driving things. He's in charge. There's a V sort of, everything's leading us to the guy in the middle, and then everything comes from him. So the net takes us into the guy in the middle, the fish sort of lead us up in a V, everything takes us there, and then his arms take us back out to all this activity that's going on around him. Great narrative, great editorial picture. To me, it was a low silver.
Okay. Well, Rachel, you were on 70. Just a comment from you?
Yeah, look, I enjoy it for all of those reasons too, Tony. I didn't enjoy the skin tone so much on the character in the middle. It felt too orangey. It kind of was throwing the balance. All I can see is an orange leg and an orange neck, and I didn't see the moment as being communicating any further than what was literally presented to me. So I didn't see a lot of what the photographer was bringing. I enjoy the colour palette and how the waves and the character in the middle are similar tones of green, but I just didn't think that was quite enough to push me into an award. But I did see it sitting in high professional standard.
Good. And I'd like a comment from either Nathan or Jacinta if you like to talk in. Or
yeah, I was really close. I can see what Tony's coming from, and I did see the story. To me, it was like, I mean, I'm not familiar with fishermen and fish, but to me, it was almost like you're herding cattle, but with fish. That's what I took from it, and that's what I liked. What held me back in going to the Silver Range was the skin tone. That was pretty much the only thing that pulled me back. It may be minor, but if Tony's willing to talk a little bit more about it, I would have loved to have seen this more colour brought right down, because we have that sort of muddy tone in the front with the fish. I would have liked to have seen it all blended just down, saturated down. To me, that was what I would have liked to have seen.
And Nathan,
and
thank
a very
you.
quick comment as well. This just feels like a high professional practice documentary shot. I'm not feeling a connection with any one of these characters. I feel like I want to know what they're looking at out of the screen. Something's happening over there, but I can't feel like a joy, a triumph, a pride of the catch or anything from there. I feel very far away from them. I feel like they're doing a job and I've just caught a documentary image. And if I was here, surely there are other images in this set that has some form of soul spark that says these guys are proud of what they do, or that something happened, or they're connecting even with each other, but they're all distant in themselves. So I'm feeling a distant documentary kind of taste on this. And so I gave it a 77 because it's a good, strong professional practice
Thanks,
image.
Nathan. And I'll go back to Tony for your right of reply.
Great comments, everybody, and I think all of those I've addressed, and I'll tell you why. Colour-wise, that skin tone's fine. And if you go and have a look, the guy in the front, his hair has no colour shift on it. It's white-grey. It's the colour, it's like close to mine, I think. But there's no shift in it. There's no extra saturation. If you look at the water, that vivid blue greens, if you're out there in overcast conditions in the ocean, the water looks like that, and the skin, there's still light there. This isn't a dark night, but the water is muddy and turbid. It's not vibrant in the foreground. It's not meant to be. So those things for me are fine. Coming back to you, Nathan, these guys aren't the sort of guys that look like they'd be posers. Look what we've done. And the reality is they haven't caught the fish yet. Have a look. They're still in the water. They can't celebrate, look what we've done, look at this sense of achievement. There's fish trying to escape. This is halfway through. We are witness to a process that's in place or taking place, not the end product. They're not standing there with a net around going, nailed it, they're all here, look at us. They're in the process of doing it, and perhaps they're moving towards something on the beach. I don't know. We've just been given the privilege of an oversight into this moment while they're in the activity, and all of that activity has been captured in one frame. And when you look at those figures, these sort of activities, they're hectic. There's a lot going on. Fish don't pose. And you look at it, none of those guys are interfering with the others. You can see each of them has a task to do, and even the net, the handle of the net is not cutting anybody's body. So that's why I've rewarded the photographer, because I see all of these elements, and they've somehow, in a very hectic, chaotic moment, brought it all together to tell us a story that we might look at and go, oh, it looks pretty simple, but I'm telling you it ain't. It ain't a simple thing to capture at that point. Once they're all on the beach, lie them out on the beach, take your time, get it right. This isn't about that. I see all of that drama that you were sort of saying, where is their pride? The pride comes later. They're still in the activity of making sure these fish land on the beach. So that's why I rewarded it. I thought they got it together quite well.
Okay, well, Tony has scored the image 83. He will hold his score, and I'll invite the judges to rescore, please. And the print scores 79. Very close. It was some hectic debate. I couldn't help it. Yeah. And, I would think that the author would just love hearing all that about their picture. So to be talked about like that is wonderful. And some interesting comments too. It's so cool. You're right. That's cool. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, next print, please. And we have a final score of 74. And some feedback for our entrant. Thanks, Jacinta.
I think we've got a really great pose here. A nice expression on the children's face. But I think it's too bright for what the expression that she has. It's way too high key. Also, the background is competing. So we've got this really dramatic texture in the background. Plus, we've also got bricks on the floor and then that leading line on the left-hand side. It's just a lot going on. So just play around with your curves a little bit. Reshoot this expression because it's great, just in a different format.
Great. Thanks, Jacinta. I'll have do a judge change. Tony, thank you for all your work. Wonderful having you on the panel as always. I invite John Woodhouse to sit in position number 1, nice and close to me. Thanks, John. Okay, and we'll have our next print. Thank you. Yes, it's difficult being around me, you see. And entry has scored 79 by majority. So I have 2 people in a position to challenge, Nathan or Jacinta. And I have the hand up as fast as the speed of light and the challenge button press from Nathan. I will accept your challenge. Just to let you know, you have Jacinta very close to you and you have a 79, 76 and 78 to work with. Thank you, Nathan.
Awesome. Look, I see your scores at least 79s, you're just under silver, and we both scored 84 just to make it very, very strongly silver. This is a really strong landscape, to be honest. This face has so much time and journey wrapped into it, and we can journey through every crease and fold of this skin, and we can see it really clearly, which I think is the author's intention for what you might see as a HDR effect. But what we're feeling is the creases and sharpness of life in this face. So I'm appreciating the technique that the author's used. But what keeps me is the gaze, and there's a lot of wisdom and a bit of suspicion in those eyes, and I really appreciate that. I'm feeling a connection, not particularly a friendly connection. So for starters, I just want to open the floor with that because I really think this should be at least a silver.
Oh, well, it's very close. And Rachel, you scored at 78.
I did. This image is stunning for all the reasons Nath said, but I can't travel into the wrinkles and the crevices in the landscape because it's just not sharp enough. It's soft, and I want it to be so punchy because that gaze and the colour palette is just glorious, but it's just a little bit soft and it loses all of its impact for me. And I wanted to award it because everything about it from where I'm sitting is just stunning. I want to look at it all day, but to award it into silver, and for the reasons that you love it, Nath, is just not there for me. That I can't go into those crevices and lines because they're muddied and not sharp.
Okay, John, you scored at 79. You were just off the silver. What bothers you that Nathan might be able to address?
I hear both of you. I agree entirely that it's not as sharp as it could be. I find the shirt and the chest very distracting. It's overworked, and the unfortunate thing is they've cropped some of the hat out. I don't know if that's by mistake. Those attentions to detail, it's in your hands. You should pay attention to that, and I do find the highlights fairly striking.
Jacinta, you were right up there at 84.
The same as Nathan. I thought it was a very, very striking image. Look at as I sit back here, it's like he's staring at me, staring me down. Like, I don't find it too soft at all. I find it sharp enough. I find the leading lines through all the crevices in his face perfectly fine. Also, what I really thought was handled well is that hat. Well, I know I've photographed Tacubas or any form of hat before, and you can lose detail in the blacks, but it's handled really well, especially with the hairline bleeding in. We can see all the hair there, and we can still see the texture underneath the hat, which it can be really difficult to do. I probably would have gone higher if like for what Rachel said and what John said with the cropping of the hat, that's what held me back going higher. Also something they possibly could do, like I mentioned before, this would have been really strong in a black and white. But I still think this is above professional practice. I think this is a high silver and it should be rewarded.
Okay, right of reply, Nathan.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments. And sharpness, Rach, there is a whole lot of sharpness in that image. The eyes are sharp, the beard is sharp, the nose is sharp. Everything in the lit side of his face is quite crisp. So there is sharpness there, and I can see just what you're seeing in some of the other side of the face. So the author is listening, so this is excellent. And John, you're right, that hat is cropped in the mat and it's not cropped on the image, which is a lesson for the author, which says, let's put some space around our image when we mat it, because the author gave space to that hat and it's not there. So if you're pulling points down for that, I can't argue it. It's true, it's presented cropped off on the edges. But as an image itself, I don't find the necktie or the shirt distracting. I find it a bit of character information for me in a shot that is essentially a black and white image, and yet it's not. There's just so much of him that's black and white, whether in his actual colour tones or in maybe his thinking, who knows. But when we add this colour palette to his chest, that helps me relate to him from a place that is very unrelatable, really, to be honest. So I'm appreciating a lot in this image, and I would love to see this as a silver. This should be awarded.
Okay, well, we have two of you in silver, and the final score was 79. Nathan, you will have to hold your score. Jacinta, you can score, as can the other judges. And we now have a silver award, 81. Yes, we only needed one more of our judges in the silver range, and we got there. And congratulations to the author. I think enough has been said about this picture. So we will move on to the next one. Okay, next print, thanks. And we have a final score of 76. And I might ask for some feedback from John. Thank you.
Interesting pose. It's a straightforward portrait pose. I do find the lighting really lets it down. It's lit. There's highlights and shadows all in the wrong areas, and I do find some of them becoming really muddy. I think one should just pay attention to that detail.
Okay, so the muddiness of the blacks mainly. Yeah. Okay, good feedback for the entrant. Thanks, John. Okay, next print, please. And we have a 79 by majority. And are you challenging? Because you can. We need to make a decision. She's challenging. Okay, Rachel is challenging, and we're on 79. Rachel is on 84. You do have some company in John, 80.
Thanks, John. This image has instant impact, and I really enjoy it for its color palette and its intricacy, and it's like a feast for the eyes. I can understand potentially where you guys are sort of sitting not quite in silver, which is why I haven't awarded it any higher. I think to make this image even stronger, it's all about posing of the eyes. Like, everything is very controlled in this image. The eyes are going off into some other direction, but in a way that isn't very flattering. If the eyes go too far in one way, then you see whites and then it doesn't quite work. But just a little bit softer, I think, kind of enhances that image. The expression is king for this image, but the skin tone and the richness and the sharpness, this image is sharp, even just by its colour, and I'm just really enjoying it. So I'm glad we get to have a discussion, because I think it sits in silver category.
I'm glad we can have a discussion too. So we have a couple of anyone who can add something to the debate. We need some adding. Yes, Jacinta.
Okay, I was sitting on the fence with this one, because the moment it turned around, it definitely, like Rachel said, it's got impact. But the moment you go up, I think, is when I started to take points away. I felt it was just too much. There was too much in the image that maybe the photographers didn't know what to take away from the image. They just put so much in that is where it begins to be too much. I'm trying to find the story in the image, but there's just so many elements going on. Plus, there's what do you call that plant? Dragon? What's that plant? Bird of Paradise, yeah, coming straight out her head. And then on her arm, there's a leaf coming out on the right-hand side. Plus her pose I find a little bit uncomfortable. She's got one leg sort of standing like this and then her arms across like this. I found some disconnect through the body. And then possibly that the skin tone had been a little bit overly worked. It was beautiful, but maybe just one step too far. I was sitting right on the fence, though, because it is beautiful.
And Nathan.
I'll just add to that, because everything Rach saw, I saw as well. It's an excellent shot, and I'd love this to go to APA as a high silver. The skin is amazing. The eyes are a greyish kind of white compared to the white of her sash, so it feels like that colouring is a little bit split. Like, she's got the whites of her eyes aren't white, and the flower arrangement on our right is just so dominant. Just taking that away just makes her pose so strong. So those are the other two things.
Good. And right of reply, Rachel.
I agree with everybody. This is a very agreeable panel, and I'm super glad that we've got to talk about this image. I don't know if I can really add anything. I feel like now I feel like I don't know what to say anymore.
That's okay.
I've done well. Let's rescore.
Yes, good. Thanks, Rachel. You'll hold your score at 84, and the print did score 79, so it was very close.
Yeah.
Off you go. Yes, we're rescoring. We have a silver award, 81. Oh! I hope Rachel heard that. And I will make a judge change, because Rachel has been on for a long time. Oh, yes. So, Diane, you're in number 3 spot now. You're not Rachel after all. Okay. So Diane D. Ray is now nicely settled on the panel, and we are ready for our next print. Thank you. And we have a final score of 77. Thank you, Jacinta.
Firstly, this has been handled really well. When you go up close, the skin tones and everything is beautiful on this image. I think what's letting it down is there's no separation really from the background to the subject, and we've also got a tree that's coming directly out of her head, and then there's a tree on the right, which I think just needs to be cropped completely out of frame. But other than that, it's printed beautifully and skin tones are great. It's just that trying to get that separation between the background and the subject would be really good.
Thanks, Jacinta. Just hold that print there out the back, please, while we do the water and... I'm sure the entrant would love you to say something about the print.
It's just one more comment about the print. I find the vignette quite heavy, and also it doesn't really engage with you that much. It needs to engage with the viewer a little bit more, I'd say.
Good. But still, it did score 77, so it's right up in that good professional practice, isn't it? There's no doubt about that. But to get into the award range, we're really looking for something, lighting, posing, that X factor. What's that word you keep using? Cookie. We're looking for something. Well, even the cookie, the outfit maybe. Yeah, and the pose. Yeah, and something else. Yeah. So that's good. Good feedback for our entrant. For sure. It's absolutely stunning image that child will love for the rest of her life, no doubt about that. Okay, everyone settled? Next print, please. Okay, and we have a final score of 77. I'd like to have a little chat about this one. Yes, Amber, thank you.
I found the little girl's face was way too light, especially under these lights, and also there's not some nice light coming through in the background, but I'd like that to be warmer. It's nice afternoon light. Should it be a bit warmer in the print?
And John, something to add?
That highlight coming down from the top right to the way we look at it is too strong. I find it leads you out of the image. There's potential there for a glorious image. You know, the dress matching the blossoms in the background. There's a lot going on, and if you work on it, I'm sure it could come up to a silver.
So we're seeing some potential with this image for the entrant. Nathan, is there anything that you could add there?
So I would just say the same. You wouldn't have to change the capture at all. It's a really strong image, and the sway of the girl compared to the trees, it's beautiful. It's just the final treatment to pull back the focus to her and her crown. The expressions are good. It's what everyone else has said. It's a great image.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. Okay, and next print, please. Okay, and the entry has scored 78. And a challenge from Nathan. Nathan, everyone else is in the 70s, the high 70s. You have scored 84. I'll accept your challenge.
Yeah, thank you. I gave this an 84 because it's worthy of a silver range. It's not just professional practice. There's a lot more going on in this image that's really, really pleasing. If we can enjoy it from the back of the room, then that's a really good start. And I can see very, very clearly a story from way in the back. We've got a well-paced set of geometric shapes. We've got lines that balance and are worthwhile, and everything leads into the characters in the story, the family, these three kids. We can see it just as shapes. If this was a silhouette, we could see it. So graphically it's in a silver already. But then as we come closer, every character has their own personality, and we've got this excellent pointing dog in mid-flight, but not motion blur, just pointing back to the family. So just graphically, it's stronger than a professional practice image. There's more going on here that I really enjoy. And then each individual character, I can see their expressions, I can read their own personalities in there. So I feel like this is a really strong narrative of these little humans, and I'm really enjoying this. I'd love this to be a silver.
Thanks, Nathan. Amber, you scored at 70.
Yes, I am on the low end of the scale. I definitely agree with the composition. I really enjoyed the balance of all the elements of the image. The main thing that's let it down for me is I find the background to be sharper than the subjects, and just being in the portrait category, I think that's the main thing. The subjects need to be super sharp. And there was one other thing I was just thinking of. It's just the saturation of the pink. It's just well over the top, and I'm not sure if that's intentional, but I just found that really glary and distracting.
John, Diane, do you have... yes?
I would absolutely love this image in black and white. I think it's got so much potential, but killed by the colour, unfortunately.
Okay, and John, you were very close to the silver range.
I loved the composition and the balance of the window and the door and the framing of the kids within the door and the connection of the dog is just fantastic. And I hear what you say, Nathan, and I think I will come up a couple of points into a silver range. My main distraction was I found that the colour that pink was very dominant, and it's a little bit bright, but it's a worthwhile image.
Anything to add, Jacinta, or we'll go to the right of reply?
I think what I was struggling with in this image is probably similar to everybody else. I can't find a sharp point on those children's faces, and I actually can't see their personalities through their face. And the connection with the dog in the background, I'm wanting some sort of connection. Is that their pet, or there's no love sort of in the image? This is what I'd like to see. Some excitement. I'm finding that it's really flat in the post-processing. Also could be paper choice. I would be experimenting as well because it's very flat lighting. And I also agree it probably would be stronger in a black and white.
Okay, right of reply. Nathan.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm appreciating the comments. I think some of them actually lend it to credit this image after all. Everyone's picking up the pink, that this is this garish splash of paint over this building, and it is. And if you look carefully, somebody's painted that pink over a green building. We can see the original colour underneath. So now we get to learn this new story of the parent. And the parent has just gone, I have 3 girls, I'm going to splash it with pink, we're all pink. And these girls aren't that, plussed about it really. I appreciate the sharpness. You are right. It's a little bit soft, not soft enough for me to not feel an authenticity about these characters. So I am forgiving that, but I do see personality in these guys. There's the oldest one who's really trying. She is smiling for the camera, gritting her teeth and smiling. The middle one, who's actually the middle-aged one, is on the right, and she's just kind of squinting. She doesn't really care. And the little one is just surly. So I'm feeling like there's a fourth character in this story that is actually quite a strong portrait, and that is of the parent who painted the house and has dressed the kids and are now forcing them into a photo. So I feel like there's a lot going on, and it's complementary to the graphical nature of this pink, squarish image.
Nathan, is on 84. He will hold his score, and I invite you judges to rescore. We have a silver award at 81. My goodness, that was some very compelling debating there by Nathan. It's beautiful. Okay, well done to the author, and I'm sure they just absolutely enjoyed all the feedback. I will do a judge change at this point. Amber, thank you. You have been on the panel for quite a while. Tony, are you okay to come back on the panel? Thanks, Tony. Jacinta, yes, if you could have a little break too. And Rachel, are you okay to pop back for us? Thank you, Jacinta. Okay, we're all settled. We are judging the portrait category, and this is the single capture at our West Australian Professional Photographer of the Year Awards, and this category is sponsored by Team Digital, great supporters of West Australian professional photography. Okay, next print please. That's okay. Okay, and the final score is 77. We're all sort of sitting in the same range here. Is there anyone who has anything to offer? Rachel, thank you.
Just consider posing. It looks like one of her arms is coming out of her head and her hand is sort of just floppy. And this is a very beautiful woman. And just the posing is just very awkward and it doesn't look like her limbs kind of balance. And then just the ring on her finger is very distracting. It's the lightest piece of the image. So posing and lighting.
Posing and lighting. Okay, thanks, Rachel. Okay, next print, please. Okay, and we have a silver award, 80. And a challenge. Rachel has scored at 86. I'll accept your challenge. Just to let you know, Rachel, that you do have an 82, a 76, 77 and an 80.
Okay, that's cool. This image delighted and confused me. I saw this as something just a little bit, well, a lot different actually. I don't understand what's going on. There's a woman in a beam of light and she's got an interesting expression on her face and she's the brightest lit, and there are people in shadows kind of walking past her as if she's maybe a little bit crazy. Maybe she's yelling at something. Maybe she's sitting at a beach kind of in her own little space and people are just sort of oblivious to her, but they're walking past her, and there's something going on here, and there are so many questions and layers and levels and shadows and people, and they're all doing things. They've got bags and they're looking at their phones, and the sand and the lighting, it's just been handled really well. Like she's almost pop arty or comical or a comic strip kind of light. It's like she's been drawn in there, but she hasn't. There's a lot of elements, and then there's the background with the waves, and that just adds another element of intrigue and questioning. It's kind of cinematic for me, and I'm just like, there's so many questions and so many elements that I really enjoy, and even just the strip kind of pieces kind of going through, everybody's sort of isolated within their own little strip. So I feel like compositionally it's really well balanced and it's really strong, and even though she's the brightest piece, it all kind of works. It's quite fabulous. So I'm glad we get to talk about it because it's unique.
Thanks, Rachel. Well, you will get a right of reply as well. Now, down the other end, we have Diane and Tony. Either of you have anything to offer to the debate? You don't have to speak if you're not...
Really quick.
Yeah.
Look, I don't understand the photo either. The thing that I probably didn't like about it was the figure that's next to the main figure who's looking directly at the camera, but we can't see her face at all. I feel like that's kind of breaking a rule. Like as a photographer, if you're going to have someone out of focus in the background and dark, they shouldn't be looking at the camera, they should be looking away. But I am mindful of the fact that this is a single capture, so there's been nothing, they haven't spliced together that background or anything like that. So, maybe there's something to be said about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing more in it, Rachel, so I'm listening for sure.
I'd like to hear from Tony, because if there's something that needs to be addressed...
Yeah, this is taken at Sculpture by the Sea. It's a mirror arc that was put on the beach at Cottesloe Beach. So that's what you're seeing is a reflection of the sky. But I agree with Di, that's why I stayed at high 70s, because that face being in shadow when the rest of her body below her is we can see detail, and then we get to her head and it's almost black. It kind of is a disconnect. It doesn't make sense. If it had the same tonality all the way through, then I could start to enjoy the highlight on the lady. I'm listening to you, Rachel, because I did want to go higher, because it is quirky, it is unique, it is different, but that lack of detail there does bother me.
Chafing at the bit is Nathan, who is sitting on 82, solid silver. Thank you, Nathan.
I love this image as well. I sat on 82 because I thought there were technicals, which you've all helped me come to terms with. I think that her head is in black because that sunlight didn't actually reach to her head. It kind of stops around at her top of the arm. But what I'm really reading in this image really strongly is a story of loneliness, and the way this leading protagonist has come to terms with that. So in the background is a sea of strange and alien heads, and they're silhouettes for a reason. Even the one closest to her is foreign, distant, and silhouette-y. It really feels like she is alone. But there's this strength in peace in looking out to the ocean. She seems really happy with herself. She's confident in herself, and she's kneeling there just going, screw the rest of you. I'm enjoying life right here, and I'm getting a bit older. And I see strength and loneliness in this together, and this alien world kind of contributes to that really strongly. So I feel like this is a very well seen image, given that it's a single capture as well. And I've really quite enjoyed this.
Good.
I think.
Thanks, Nathan. Do you have something to add to the debate?
Yes,
John?
please, Janet.
Yes.
This reminds me of if this image was handled better, I think it would be very, very powerful. It reminds me of two things: the burning monk in I've forgotten what country it was, and then bystander apathy, Today, you can sit there and everyone just walks past you. No one cares about you. That's what I see there. So to me, it's an emotional image. And if it was shot cleanly and handled really well, and all those problems that you guys have seen in it were handled well, this could go way up and score really well. It's in a modern society, bystander apathy is an incredibly bad thing, and that is, she's been isolated. Yep.
Thanks, John. And now, Rachel, if you could reply.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments. And John, I see that touched you quite emotionally there. I could see you kind of welling up a little bit there. And I believe that this technically is actually exquisite. I don't see any flaws in this. The woman, I don't believe, is looking directly at the camera. I believe she's looking down at the woman on the sand. That's how I read it anyway. I saw the eyes, the very subtle sunglasses. She's looking down at that woman, mainly because I think she's lit so brightly and she's so fearless in the face of her aloneness. She is so different. She's the oldest one there. These are the young, cool people of the world all hanging out together. I am actually thinking I'm going to push my score up a little bit. I just love looking. I can't push my score up, damn it. Oh, gosh. Well, I'm glad I gave it a silver distinction then. Oh, gosh, this is fabulous. It's so rich. I don't know what the technicals are. Like, there's light on the legs and the balance is there. Like, there are bright highlights in the mirrors. And if it is sculpture by the sea, thank you, Tony, for bringing that out. I think this makes it even stronger. It has got emotional impact and technical genius, I think. I love the play between the light and the shadows. I love that she's so white and isolated, and it does feel lonely. But she's so brave in it, and I think that's what this is all about. And I'm adoring this, and I'm really glad we've chatted about this in the way that we have. So we can rescore it, I guess. Now.
Okay. So, Rachel, you will hold your score on 86, looking for a silver distinction. And judges, you are invited to rescore. Oh, my goodness. I think we have a majority 85, a silver distinction. Well done, judges. There was very active debate there. And as you say, Di, moved your score quite a bit to, in favour of the image. Well done to the author. Okay, let's move right along. Next print, please. And we have a final score of 70. And a quick comment from Tony. Thank you.
Cropping's a little untidy, crops off the hands at the bottom, etc. Her expression's not, the girl in the front is a little bit in between, but there's also some major technical issues with the highlight on the hair, some major dropout areas or some flaws in the printing there, so have a look at that.
Good. Thank you, Tony. Next print, please. And a final score of 76. And a quick comment for the author. Tony, thank you.
Sensual, nude, feet cropped off on the left. The lighting's rather harsh. The shadows are too heavy. And then you got that very bright highlight on the buttocks. So just lighting needs to be a little bit finessed and a bit more sensual to match the gesture of the body, and the composition a little bit tighter, a little bit tidier. Sorry, thank you.
Great. Good feedback. Thanks, Tony. Okay, next print, please. And final score, 77. A comment from Nathan. Thank you, Nathan.
Well, look, it's a very sweet shot. The framing, I can say all the good things, but what the author wants to hear, I guess, is they've lost me a little bit on the out of focus. The depth of field is too great. It's actually a distraction. And just the highlights, there's a lot of bright. The expression on the girl's face is about the strongest thing that I could take away. And I think that we could draw that out a little bit more. And I don't know why we have so much negative space on the left for this one. I don't feel it's needed.
Good. Thank you, Nathan. Next print, please. Amber, who will sit in for Diane. Thank you, Amber. Final score of 78. Yes, Rachel, thank you.
I really enjoy this character. What a face. I think what would have made it stronger for me was depth of field, just a greater depth of field to see more of those textures and colours and things, because I think that's such a huge part of the story. And just print it down a little bit. There's just a little, he's quite pink and red, and just a little bit darker would have given a bit more mystery, but great shot.
Great comments. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, and we'll have Diane back on the panel and ask for our next print. Thank you. Okay, a final score of 76. Thank you, judges. Yes, Diane, thank you.
This has got quite a strong composition and it's quite interesting, but I think her face has been overlit and we've lost a lot of detail out of the face. So the strength is in the gaze, but because we've lost a lot of detail out of her face, that gets somewhat lost in all the rest of the detail. So yeah, maybe look at that.
Thanks, Di. And next print, thank you. And a final score of 77. Nathan, thanks.
Beautiful saleable palette for the client. I'm seeing a sharper hairline than the eyes themselves, so it's just a tiny little technical, because what a beautiful look. But just coming up close, it's just the focus is just off the eyes, just a little bit soft there. But great tones.
The eyes need to be in focus, right? Okay. Good feedback, and beautifully placed in that good professional practice too. Okay, and next print, please. And a final score of 77. And a comment for the photographer, John?
I'd say to the photographer, keep on exploring this area. You don't often get male nudes submitted in these awards. You just got to really pay attention to the lighting. It's really let it down. The feet are highlight underneath that draw you to that area immediately, and then the hands get lost completely, and the highlights on the lower end of the belly are really too strong. I find it's a nice pose. Just handle the light much more subtly.
Good, thanks for those comments. Okay, and we'll have our next print, please. And that is the end of the category. Woo! And yeah.